Hi, this is Kirk Skodas from Trustworthy. At South by Southwest this year, I talked to Bowen Payson, who is Manager of Online and Digital Marketing for Virgin America. We talked about the finer points of social media response.
We all saw the Kevin Smith thing with Southwest. Yep. I won't go into it, but the question being, I thought that Southwest did an admirable job of getting out there fast, responding to him fast, blogging about it quickly, like within 24 hours, I think. And yet, it's a tough problem. So, like, right. I mean, did you learn from that? Do you look at these things and go, okay, what if that happens to us? What would we do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all in the industry look at Southwest and say they handled it well. I think in those situations it's almost a lose-lose. So you can be as proactive as you want in responding and articulating as much as you possibly can, but use a lot about damage control at that point, because these guys' influential audience, they're going to respond a certain way, and so it's about being aggressive in articulating your point, but also realizing and mitigating what the particular ramifications will be. So realizing that you're probably going to lose a situation in the media space and adapting your approach to that. So accepting blame is obviously a first response, even if it's maybe against company policy, to go out. I mean, even the policy being the situation that Kevin was in, was that the correct response? Would they have done that to any other guest in a similar situation? And yes, they have that right. So in that light, realizing that maybe even though they acted within their policy, just still going against the grain to like take responsibility for that.
Cool.
So I do think that it's a difficult situation, because there's situations like that all the time. Somebody with 100 followers could say something, and it becomes a question of, do I respond to who has a higher priority, and that you have to mitigate and control as well. So really, in our environment, we try to look at our guests on Twitter as equals. So if we're going to respond to a Kevin Smith type situation, we're also going to respond to a Jane Doe situation as well.
Where do you draw the line, and what's the threshold when you go to either reply and where it's just public, where you get the benefit of everybody seeing it, and that's kind of why one of the reasons why you're there, versus taking a DM because it's just,
Yep.
simply the privacy of the information, and there's hard and fast rules?
Yep. I would say there's a couple scenarios. One is the size of the following audience, that if it's a large audience, we will reply publicly. But if it's a smaller matter and the individual is asking about a specific situation, we will try to go direct message where we don't need to engage a larger audience. So there's several considerations, I guess, who come into effect. If it's private information and they've distributed something, then there's no need to reply publicly unless their audience is large. If their audience is large, then we do realize that we need to jump in and explain that publicly or initiate it publicly. But then we'll try to pull them offline and deal with the nitty-gritty in a smaller environment, a more connected environment.
Do you ever see DM as like when you kind of put yourself in their shoes and kind of audit yourself, like that might be seen as a sign of fear in those instances? Like
yeah,
you're trying to take it private?
Yeah, in those environments we will often say, we're going to direct message you, we'll say that publicly, and then go direct message them privately. So we're saying we're recognizing the situation, but then the details of the situation come offline.
You do promotions on Twitter and obviously on Facebook. What would you say, do you even track things like what's our ratio of, you try to keep a balance and you actually have a number for that?
We don't have a hard and fast number. We do try to keep if we're doing a fair promotion, keep that to once or twice a week. If it's a larger push during like a certain period, then we may go more frequent and isolate it, and then go slow down in the following periods. But I'd say during the week, like fair updates, 1 to 2 to 3 maybe. But then other than that, like promotional stuff, we have realized that we need to keep that in check. There's been some response to our Fly Girls promotion and then our Banana Republic sponsorships, that we see that these people are opting in for Virgin America. They're not necessarily opting in for sponsorship or promotions with third parties. So we are going to start minimizing that quite a bit more. Not a strong backlash, but just enough to keep us in check. So we'll slow it down a little bit. So there's not a hard number. We're learning as we go. It changes every 3 months or so. The user experience changes, so we change our ways.